Thank you, listeners. It is Tuesday, back at it after a long holiday weekend, and it's time to get right back into the City of Elko action. In fact, I was surprised and said, oh, well, of course you have a meeting on the last Tuesday of the month. And in studio with us, we have our city manager, Jan Baum, and Jan has brought with her our guest today, who is our City Financial Services Director. Jan, thank you for bringing Julie Davis along today, too.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're thrilled to have Julie. Julie has been with us since January. And we're just absolutely thrilled to have her, and she's doing a great job. And so this is the final budget presentation today.
Great. So we will get into that a little bit with you, Julie. You get to sit tight for a bit. And
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's wonderful, again, to be able to go over, to know what good hands the city is in. We're looking at a conservative budget. Everything appears to be in the black. We'll talk about any places where it's not, obviously, and what's being done to bring that up. So, but first we'll look over the agenda for today's meeting that starts at 4 o'clock with our city manager. And there are a few things on here, Jan. I mean, there's going to be the police chief's annual presentation. Now, he's going to come on the radio. I'm recording his show tomorrow, so we'll hear all about that detailed report on Thursday. So
Great.
So,
yeah. So it's got some good information, and he does that once a year. And I think it's a good representation of how hard his group works.
Absolutely. And anybody who's listening, if you want to do some homework before this afternoon's meeting at 4, or certainly the radio show on Thursday, you can go to Elko City, elkocity.com, and then you can click on today's meeting agenda and just go right to that presentation. You'll find the whole thing there. So
absolutely.
Really helpful.
The budget presentation's there as well.
Yes, it is. It's all 51 pages, but it's really easy. We were talking about this. It's nice. It's nicely laid out. It's super easy to understand, and then that way you can ask good questions based on the information there.
Right. We try to make it, simplified, because the budget is it's a huge process, and it is kind of interesting to take such a huge process and put it into 50 pages, but hopefully it's summarized so people can understand it, and full transparency.
Yep, there are 12 different governmental fund types, and we'll kind of touch on as many of those as we can with Julie coming up. So perfect. So that's also on the agenda today. That's right at the top. But I thought we might look at a couple of things there are going to be a couple of closed sessions to go into negotiations between the various labor groups in the city, Jan.
Yes, so we've been in negotiations with these two groups for the firefighters, I want to say maybe about 2 months, and OE3 probably a month and a half. And so it's time for us to sit down with council and give them a summary about where we are and what the asks are, and then get council's direction on where they want to go and what their plan is. So yes, we'll probably do that at the end of the meeting. Usually Mayor Keener, he puts that at the end of the meeting, so that if people don't want to stay for the entire meeting for the end public comment and the adjournment of the meeting, then they don't have to wait all that time.
That makes sense. And I know that per NRS, these are closed sessions to discuss labor negotiations, so it is by state law. But I mean, sometimes can you just indicate, is there any particular feeling going into negotiations? Does it feel good this time of year, or?
So negotiations are, full disclosure, it's my first negotiations that I've been through. So it's an interesting process, and really what it is the union contract belongs to the unions, and if they want to make changes, they bring them to management and ask for changes. And the changes can be anywhere from wages to different classifications of positions, or maybe issues that different employees are having on a regular basis. Then we try to address those. And there's some good discussion going back and forth. And I think that they're good relations, and there's good faith on both sides, I believe.
Good to know, Jan. And you do get some, obviously, help from HR, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So HR, which is our HR director, is Susie Schertz. And yes, she leads us through these, and it's a good process. So for sure. And then just for clarification, the OE3 is the Operating Engineers Union, and that's the blue-collar employees of the city. So most of the hourly employees that are not fire or public safety, really, that are not public safety, so not police, they have their own union, and then fire has their own union.
All right. And again, these include the employees who choose to be members of the associations and does not include the appointed officials.
Absolutely. It does not include appointed officials or management.
All right. So moving forward in that, and that is, again, something that once the negotiations begin, a lot of talk behind closed doors. It's nice that these are agendized because then we all know it's coming and happening. And then the results, though, those will be conducted in a public session.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the main items of conversation, obviously, is the cost of living. And with management just usually gets what the CPI is at the end of January, whereas with the union employees, that's negotiated.
All right, so that's up for a discussion and more on that to come in the weeks and months ahead. As we're talking with our city manager, Baum, here on Elko Live today, we are skipping around a little bit just to accommodate some of the bigger items that people may be following, such as the business impact statement, presenting the data and the for or against arguments on to whether the proposed fee increase in water rates is actually a significant burden to the community.
Thank you. So yes, so council, we've been discussing water rates and the modernization for probably about 6 months with council and different meetings. And so I believe it was in April, council moved to have management go forward with initiating a business impact statement. And so the water rates that are under discussion are for water users who are already metered. It's a 10% increase, and for water users who are on a flat rate, it is a 20% increase. And so obviously showing some need to incentivize both businesses and residents to go towards the metering. And so we sent out the business impact statement, and there were some responses, not a lot. I can't tell you exactly how many we sent out, but of the many hundreds that we sent out, I believe we got a handful of responses. And of course, the responses make sense. The car washes will be impacted, obviously, by the additional cost, the 10% increase, and then I believe some apartments as well.
You know, it was interesting to note of the apartments mentioned, and just trying to figure this out. I think of the various presentations that we saw, Jan, about that the water meters could actually result in savings, right? And I don't know, maybe apartments are metered differently, or are they metered to each individual apartment? Because if a user uses less water, they should be paying for less.
Right, exactly. So I'm going to be honest, I don't know the exact answer to that, but I believe that I believe every unit should be metered, and you're right. So if there's residents that use little to no water, then their bill would be less. And so that's the concept behind metering, of course, of the entire city. And so then people are paying for the product that they're using rather than everybody paying the same, no matter if you are using a lot of water or not. And then there's also water loss, and the state has the City of Elko or is asking different municipalities to report to them where their water loss is going and how much water loss they have. Well, without meters, the City of Elko can't answer a lot of those questions. And so in order to track where our water's going and where the waste is, and to conserve water and try to eliminate some of that waste, meters are necessary. So I think it'll be a good change for the metering. And as far as the price increase, the City of Elko currently is not covering depreciation or even half of depreciation, which is what we try to cover and in our operation budget. And so this will help us move towards that.
All right, and obviously that will segue into our budget talk here. That'll be shortly. We just wanted to mention that that's under new business, discussing the business impact statement, and then the rate is set to take effect July 1, is that right?
We would like it to take effect July 1, and I believe that we are on track for that to happen. As you know, we don't have a city clerk right now, but we have an acting city clerk, and so Kathy Laughlin has been looking into this process, and so this is the next step, which is presenting the business impact statement to council, and I believe we're still on track to have our price increase implemented on July 1st.
All right. Jan Baum is our Elko City Manager. We're looking over some of the highlights of this afternoon's regular council meeting that starts at 4 o'clock today. And we're also going to have a budget discussion, a very well-prepared presentation that's coming up too. We do want to mention the resolution will be on the agenda today, approving the grant funds to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Elko. And it is very specific, Jan. So again, anyone who has any questions about this should really go online and read the documentation that's attached, correct?
Yes, the resolution is very detailed. And so previously, council moved to grant funds to the Boys and Girls Club for the recreation center. And most people probably know the recreation center is under construction currently. And so we're seeing movement there, which is great. And so they moved to grant $1.8 million, which is $900,000 in 2 different payments to the Boys and Girls Club of Elko. And the only clarification we need on the resolution is exactly when council would like the payments to go. I do know the second payment they would like when there's a C of O. Certificate of occupancy, but the first payment wasn't really clear in the motion, so we left that blank, and we'll get clarification from council for that payment.
All right, and this again just has to do with the separate grant that comes from the Recreation Fund.
Yes, from the Recreation Fund.
Yeah, and the 2 different increments of $900,000 each, and it is money that was in the fund. So I know that there's been some discussion about that maybe something else was overlooked, but James Wiley made that presentation to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board and showed where the money was available.
Yes, the money is available. And so if we rewind about a year ago, the City of Elko at first thought that they were going to have to spend about $10 million on the second phase of the sports complex if indeed the rec center took any of the current baseball or softball fields. And that did not happen. And so we had some money in the rec fund that we were going to use towards that phase 2 of the sports complex. Well, since we didn't go forward with the phase 2 of the sports complex, there was some fund balance there. And so I think it'll be a good use of money. This facility will be used by the entire public, from small children who need to learn how to swim to older people who want to lap swim or, just stay in shape, and then of course open swim for all age groups. So I think it'll be a great facility. I believe it includes a teen center and a gymnasium and a fitness center as well, I believe, and as well as a few pools. So I think it'll be a great facility for our entire community.
Thanks, Jan. And just again, reminding people too that there are no displaced ball fields, so that should settle that controversy. So it seems to be a happy compromise because we get those desperately needed pools. You get the recreation center that includes the teen facilities.
Absolutely. Yes. I think that, things happen for a reason, and through a lot of conversation and a lot of problem solving, I think it all ended up the way it was meant to be, and it makes sense that it's right there beside the pool, the current pool, and so people will know where to go, and so excited for that to open up. I believe it'll probably be a year and a half from right now, but it'll be a great addition to our our community. And that just, that does bring me, I want to tell everybody that the pool today, I don't have an update yet. As of today, Mandy Ferguson came in to tell me and I missed her, but the pool is closed today. The boiler is not working properly, and and we're working on it. Hopefully we'll get that open soon, but if we don't have warm water, the pool or the showers are not very enjoyable. So the pool is closed right now, and it's just another indication that we're really just trying to keep that pool open until the new one opens.
Oh, thank you so much for the update, Jan. And again, it's disappointing, but trying to keep that limping along until we
absolutely
can get that brand new pool opened. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a good segue, unless there was anything else that jumped out on the recent today's meeting agenda, Jan, or?
No, I just, I want to announce or just do a reminder real quick that there is early voting at the Mybrary on 720 Court Street, Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and that is open until June 7th.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I'll be giving council a little update on cricket abatement. We're baiting as we can, or not even always baiting, but just treating as we can on city-owned land, and the state gave me an update as well, so we'll be presenting that. And then we have some job openings, so if you're awesome, you can always apply with the City of Elko, and we'd love to have you as part of our team. I think we have our city clerk open right now, which is a very vital part of our management team, very important position, and then also a civil engineer. So, but there are several openings, so please feel free to go on to elkocity.com.
All right, Jan, we'll send them your way. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, we're going to segue over to Julie, and I don't know if you have any questions, or obviously this is what you did for the city for a long time, Jan, and
I did.
You really honed your skills. Yes.
Yeah, so I did do it. It's for, like we were saying before, for us nerdy girls, we we kind of like our numbers, and I always believe that the numbers tell the story. And Julie does an amazing job of putting it all together, and she's really got her mind around all the different funds. It's a little different than what she's done in the past, but she's got a great grasp on it, and I think the city's in good hands.
Well, thank you, Jan. Jan Baum, and I'll switch it over to you, and I'll scoot you up to that microphone, Julie. Okay, how's that?
That's good.
That's
Thank
perfect.
You.
Thank you. Julie Davis is our Financial Services Director for the city. And as I was saying, just right at the top of the 51 pages of the budget, there's this nice summary sheet that you can just look it over. And it says that this budget contains 5 funds, including debt service, requiring property tax revenues of $8.5 million. I know you'll get specific on that, but the property tax rates are based on preliminary data, so that could change somewhat. The budget has 12 governmental fund types with estimated expenditures of just over $55 million, 6 proprietary funds with estimated expenses of $26.2 million. So thank you for the summary sheet there. So as far as the things that really jump out in the general fund, it's probably a good idea to explain that the general fund for fiscal year 23 was $31.6 million, right? And is that compared to this year as well?
So revenues in FY23 included some of the ARPA funds. ARPA funds were received in FY22 and 23. So in FY23, there was $4.6 million in ARPA revenues. So we'll see those drop off in FY24 and 25.
That's going to be a significant difference in all municipalities in Nevada. In fact, I think nationwide, right? Because these funds are to be retired.
Yes, ARPA funds need to be obligated by December.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll notice a big difference. And there is an accounting tab for that, right? Of where our ARPA funds have gone in the city, right, Julie?
Yes. Every ARPA dollar is tracked, and we have a slide in our presentation for our 2 big water projects spending ARPA funds this year.
And there were a lot of individual contributions that were made to various nonprofits and local businesses that could apply, and they're also very carefully accounted for, right?
Yes, every dollar is tracked. There are requirements, and those are, So I can go into more detail if you want.
If you're interested, just
Okay.
because I do think that might be an interesting discussion, and then give people more information about, how drastically different the budget will look next year without the ARPA funds.
Yeah, so the revenues came in, they stopped in FY23, and those also led to some of the community service donations are from funds freed up from collecting the ARPA funds. And we have a whole page. So there will be one payment budgeted in FY25, and that's for the Nevada Health Center of $683,000.
And again, that's the city has been the pass-through for that money. It was applied by these various nonprofit groups. They had specific requests, and I believe Nevada Health Centers, as you said, the going out has to do with providing behavioral health.
Yes.
So the city is confident, I think, after the recent presentation, that they're on track to do that. But again, a lot of these were one-time donations. There will be an ongoing one into the Boys and Girls Clubs, the $400,000, Julie, and that's for operations of the new pool, right?
Yes, so that's from funds that the city would have been paying into the current pool.
And then folks may notice some other larger contributions, such as $300,000 to the Fair Board, $504,000 to ECVA, and those were in 22. Yeah. Yes. And so let's see, going forward. Yeah, I think you accounted for that largest one that'll be finally dispersed in 25, and that'll be to Nevada Health Centers.
Yeah.
So how do the other accounts look, I guess? Is there anything that is running in the red right now, Julie? Sometimes our airport needs a little help, right?
Yeah, the airport has a large grant covering a large portion of the ramp project this year.
And that's a big construction project.
That's a big project. I think that was about $6 million.
Okay. So, and that also, that keeps our airport in compliance so that we can continue to have commercial air service.
Yes.
Yes, of aircraft of various sizes. So I know that's really important. There are breakdowns, for example, as we talked about, the recreation fund. The recreation fund, that comes from the collection of hotel, motel room taxes. Is that right, Julie?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the main fund, revenue for that fund.
So our visitors, and that's why it's so important to remind people that we have an official visitors authority, and that's, sanctioned and in relationship with the state, that those room taxes go right back into creating these nice amenities and funding these opportunities for local residents.
Yeah, the large expense in that fund this year is the sports complex concrete phase 1. So that'll get some concrete out in the parking lots and help a lot of people.
Yeah, so that phase 1, that will absolutely finish phase 1 of the sports complex, which is a great accomplishment for the city. That complex is being used more and more all the time by baseball teams, and you see kids down there playing ball. And so the cement will enable not only for it to look better, but it'll also help us with, I think it'll be more ADA compliant with that, or accessible, I should say. And I think that'll be helpful. And then we're hoping to also get some shade structures with that. So it's a big expenditure, but we're hoping to finally 100% complete that phase 1 of the sports complex.
And since we've got you on, Jan, too, something that isn't, here we go. Here's the pickleball improvements. I wanted to make sure we mentioned that. We have some pickleball listeners. So pickleball is reflected in this recreation fund budget.
It is. And actually just last week, James Wiley had a company come over to the City of Elko from Utah and look at all of our different services, not only for the possible pickleball where the cement is for the hockey rink. We would like to convert that into pickleball courts, but also the current pickleball courts that are on the south side, and then the basketball courts over here across from City Hall, and the tennis courts, and then the handball courts, and there are courts everywhere. And he had them look at all of them and kind of give us an analysis of what it would cost to really get some good surfaces on those different courts. So it'll be interesting to see what he gets from that, and that'll help us towards that goal of making sure that we have some dedicated pickleball courts.
And if I'm not mistaken, from the most recent presentation of Parks and Rec Advisory, it looks like the pickleball improvements got bumped up by about $25,000. So $50,000 now?
They did.
Yeah. So that Julie's smiling and nodding, right? So
Yeah, we increased that to 50,000.
okay, so that should help, and hopefully connecting all the dots, because you're right, the folks, I'm not sure which company's coming from Salt Lake, but they're doing a whole bunch of new projects in Salt Lake right now for pickleball specifically. So, all right, so we went over some of those really popular funds, Recreation Fund, as well as community service donations, Julie. And we talked a little bit about airport and the huge capital outlay there. That's for the apron. I think you said apron, or?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. So other funds that maybe really jump out for you. We do know that the city is going to see some significant increases as a result of cost of health insurance, right, Julie?
Yeah, health insurance costs are always increasing. We feel like our fund is in a pretty good place. Our goal is to keep about the cost of about 1.5 years of expenses. Then that covers if there's a high claims year. And that goal has been met, so.
Well, that's good. And the city is self-insured, right? I mean, that's important to explain, right, Jan?
Right. So
Yeah.
we're partially self-insured. And so once a claim hits, I believe it's $70,000, then the city insures that first $70,000, and then once we get to that deductible amount, then it goes to a secondary insurance. So that premium for the secondary insurance usually increases every single year, and we did have I think a single digit increase this year, which was great. Yeah. And so then Julie is going to propose, hopefully propose to council that perhaps we decrease our premiums to for our dependents, for employees. So that'll be a little relief for some of our employees.
Oh, okay. The subsidy right now is $365,000. Is that what I saw indicated on the budget? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll keep the subsidy there, and then we'll propose a 20% decrease in spouse and family premiums that the employees have the option of.
And that's actually part of the benefits, and that's what helps you attract and retain quality professionals.
Absolutely. And insurance costs for employees are, we pay for 100% of our employees, and then the employees pay a portion of their dependents. So we're hoping that will help get a little balance for them.
Yeah, definitely. And people should understand too, listening, anyone that's insured knows that you have a responsibility. You pay part of that insurance, but we do have very competitive salaries and benefits offered by our major mining companies, right? So yes. It can make it hard to attract the professionals that we desperately need to do these jobs within the city, some from heavy equipment operators to engineers and and the gamut. So
the city is a very complex organization, and we have a lot of different professionals and a lot of different skill sets within the city, and we're appreciative of all of them. And so you're right, it's important that we stay competitive.
All right, talking with our city manager, Jan Baum, and our city's financial services director, Julie Davis here. The budget least approval of the tentative final budget, right?
Yes. Today at the council meeting, we'll be presenting and asking for approval so we can submit to the state.
Okay. And some of the council items that you're going to be actually asking them to consider today is that the budget was prepared with a 3.1% increase, so that's modest, right?
Yes. CPI for January was 3.1, and that would be management and non-represented.
And then, as you mentioned, to the health insurance fund, the premium change, which would be an overall $39,000 cost for the city,
yes.
But that would offer a nice relief for spouse and family benefits.
Yeah.
Yes. And that will be up for the city council's consideration. There'll be discussion of community donations or capital equipment? Is that where the council gets to weigh in on their preferences, Julie?
Yeah, so these were presented in prior budget workshops, but they'll have another opportunity to weigh in on any community donations and capital equipment purchases for next year.
Okay. And I didn't see anything specific on the agenda for those, Jan, so.
No, they're just listed in detail on the presentation.
Yeah.
The capital equipment is every piece of equipment that we're purchasing is listed separately, and then same with the community donations. They're all listed in detail.
All right. And those negotiations were done months in advance. It usually takes a long time to get that through. So.
Absolutely.
And then finally, I think something that might be a little surprising. Oh, well, we have about 2.8 in what's known as a rainy day fund or revenue stabilization. That's even a little bit more according to what's required by the state, Julie. That's a healthy ending balance.
It is a healthy fund balance, so that's why there's a transfer out of that fund this year. There's a maximum allowed per NRS, so we're moving a balance out this year to make sure we stay under that maximum.
Okay, so the transfer will be just about $333,000.
Yes.
Okay, so not any exorbitant amount, but the state, based on what taxpayers prefer, doesn't want cities to hold on to money. So we need to have that money in circulation in the community. I don't know why it doesn't apply to counties, because we have neighboring counties that have huge funds because they are supported by the mining taxes, of which we don't get a share, unfortunately. It's been a long discussion in the region in Northeast Nevada. And then finally, too, I guess, Julie, the Redevelopment Agency Fund, that's been a nice surprise in that we got more tax revenue than anticipated, right? Almost $790,000.
Yeah, that was updated for more current revenue estimation. Yeah.
So that's we didn't have enough to do the sidewalk project, Jan,
No,
not this year.
right.
Yeah.
But we're hoping that with the additional revenue and moving, if we can move it into two different fiscal years, perhaps we can put it back out to bid early in 2025 and begin the project in the spring of 25. So that's why the sidewalk project is still in the budget. Because it could be started in this fiscal year. So we're so excited for that project. We want to get that going.
I know. It makes such a nice difference in the beautiful downtown area, and I think the merchants are excited too. Well, Julie, is there anything that jumps out on the budget for you that you want to make sure listeners are any of your favorite parts that we don't want to miss out discussing?
No, I think we covered it pretty good. One exciting fact in the debt service fund, the PD bond will be paid off this fiscal year. So
That's terrific.
Yeah.
That's the Elko Police Station.
Absolutely. So
And that-
that'll be great. We'll
Yeah.
have that paid in full.
And how much does that free up, I guess? After that, we won't be making a monthly payment.
yeah,
I think the one payment is in there for a little over $300,000, and for a whole year, if there's two payments, it would be around $6,000. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So obviously money that could be directed to another capital project?
Absolutely, and we have capital projects, that are always coming up. And in fact, in the facility fund, we have the design and site selection for either an annex fire station or a main fire station, and then also a site selection and preliminary design for a city hall.
That's what I was just going to ask about. So some folks pretty insistent we're going to get a new city hall, but probably not until these other needs are met.
Absolutely. The city hall is, it's a tough one to spend money on, just because it's primarily for city staff. But we have some city staff that are sitting in some trailers that were bought for temporary purposes, and they've been in there for maybe 20 years, and they're starting to fall apart a little bit. And then City Hall is, it's got some expensive upgrades. So we'll just have to decide what to do, whether we continue with the upgrades or if we decide to build on or build a new facility, or there's just a lot of different options. So it'll be nice to explore all of that.
And that'll be in the months to come, right, Jen?
Absolutely.
All right. And again, what she's talking about is, in just as the city pools, boilers are failing, that's happening at City Hall too. So-
Absolutely. We're replacing our boilers right now. And because the boilers were put in as a secondary heating source, and with the geothermal down, they're the main heating source. And so if they went down in the middle of the winter, the building would freeze up, no doubt. So we're replacing those right now yeah, it's going to be an expensive project to almost $1 million. So Band-Aids to buildings like that are not inexpensive.
Jan, thank you. And Julie, thank you so much for the update. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, City Council meeting starts at 4 o'clock today for anyone who wants to follow along in person or online. And, I did want to say, too, Jan, that I was fortunate to go to the Memorial Day services yesterday at the city cemetery. The cemetery looked so beautiful. Oh, my goodness. The staff must have worked so hard. I mean, it always looks beautiful, but it really was exceptional. There was a wonderful crowd of people there. The high school band was playing.
Wonderful.
Mayor Keener gave some brief remarks, and they were well appreciated. So it was just, and that's something that I'm not sure that people realize, that that's an important part of what the city does, is maintain that cemetery.
Absolutely. That's part of our parks department, and Leonard and his crew do an amazing job. And so we'll make sure and we extend that to him and his crew, because they do an absolutely wonderful job over there.
Yeah, it was great. And we're excited. The veterans talked about their new veteran cemetery that's also in cooperation with the city.
So excited for that project, yes. And we're going to construct Jennings, extend that road to get to the veteran cemetery. And so that's a really exciting project for our whole community.
So more to come.
Yep, more to come, always.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Jan Baum. Thank you, Julie Davis, our guest on Elko Live today. We appreciate our listeners for joining us. The City Council meeting starts at 4 o'clock this afternoon.